What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a new video. So this week is part 2 of the Patrick Holmes collection tour. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at some of his adult animals, including mangrove snakes, scrub pythons, green tree pythons, and more. As you saw last week, Patrick has an incredible collection of some top-notch snakes in the peak of condition. So without further ado, I'm excited to show you guys the animals.
So this is just a Biak, just in quotations, right? Her color is hormonal, and she's coming back out of a shift. So she was just very recently, her white was just bright, blinding white. Okay. You can see that it has kind of a yellow tinge coming back into it. Yeah, especially and her blue is less like sky blue, and it's she was actually developing some black in the blue. And that's still kind of there, but it's just she's going back through the shift, but she won't come much more out of it than this. And she's doing it less so than last year. So every year she'll be more and more blue and more white. What's cool about her is this is clearly an older animal. I mean, she's massive. Yeah. There's nothing really for size comparison here, but this animal is 6 feet long. She's pushing 2,000 grams.
Your head.
Yeah, right. But yeah, we do some forced perspective size comparison of this animal. She was just a monster.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. And so she's really high yellow. Like, it's funny to call her that because you don't see a whole bunch of yellow, but if she was not hormonal, this is an extremely high yellow green tree python. Biaks usually lose way more yellow than that, and this animal is way past the age of losing yellow. So this is Hellboy, and this is his brother, half brother. They have the same dad. They're both from Crook times BMF and Crook times Kink. This one I call him Gammon. That's just from the comic books, that Hellboy's brother in the comic books. They both have like the blue lips. I don't know if that's coming through, but Hellboy is much more shy of an animal. And he's also they're both very high yellow chondros. And you can see his blue lips. I still have not gotten babies out of Hellboy. I haven't run into a bunch of females. Honestly, I think I've only had him lock one female. But this guy has produced a couple of clutches for me. So, yeah. And that neck, man.
Yeah, that's really
I tend to think their dad was undocumented, but I tend to think he had calico blood to get these looks. Look how that yellow on his neck, like, fades to white as it goes down. Like, I love that. There's not like that hard line. And the blue is so contrasting. And you can see on that side the scarring in his supraocular scales. That's from him going crazy when he's cycling. He just bashes his face up. I have to either keep him when he's in season. I have to keep him with a girl, or I have to feed him, because if I feed him, it slows him down. So otherwise, he just beats himself up cruising. He's a stud, man. So we got a reduced pattern. I like to call these aberrant. Somebody gave me shit about it in one of the Boiga groups, saying that it wasn't. They're like, well, it's naturally occurring. Well, of course it's naturally occurring. Aberrant means it's different from normal. This animal does not have full bands. This wasn't the one. It was the other one. But she's still extremely reduced pattern.
Sure. That
makes it by definition aberrant. It's the reduced banding, the way the bands don't go all the way up, reduced pattern. I'll show you my male next door. He's got really aberrant pattern. He's got weird striping and dots and dashes, and
I remember that now. That's so cool.
Yeah, these guys, I'll give them a run towards the end of the year.
Okay. Hopefully it works out. That'd be super cool.
Yeah, between the trio, I think I should be able to get a clutch. So this is my holdback from my first Divergence clutch in 2022. I was the second person in the U.S. to produce Divergence in captivity. Kevin McCurley was the first person. He did it in 2019. He got a couple clutches. And then Dan Malary was the third person. He got a clutch from a pair that I sold him as adults. But I'm the only person that's done it consistently in multiple years in a row. This will be my 4th year in a row breeding them. And this guy got clutches in 22, 23, and 24. And then this year, be 4th year. This girl is her blue is just ridiculous. And her banding is so wide. Her yellow is so wide. That's why she was my #1 pick right out of the egg, because of the banding. I'll see if I can get some of that belly color.
Yeah, look at that. That's super cool.
And then the underside of her. She's behaving herself fairly well, but she's ready to defend herself right now. They've got those silver eyes, and so she'll be 3 in November, and I'll go ahead and crank her up then. She's big enough that like they'll breed at this size, but I want my females to be 3 years old minimum before I'm pairing them up. And so yeah, I'll crank her up in November or maybe December. So this is Boiga dendrophila gemicincta, Sulawesi black mangrove snake. One of the things I really like about these is that they hatch out as the most colorful mangrove snake, right? Really heavily banded. Their bands are really narrow and close together, and they fade from yellow to orange to red towards the tail on that iridescent black background. And then as they mature, they lose their banding and turn into this just solid jet black snake. And while this girl is mature, she's sexually mature, she still has some of the faintest little remnants, just vestigial banding. I don't even know if it's showing up in this slide. Not. You can actually, interestingly, you can see it more inside than you can outside. And, but that will all continue to fade. This girl is just the blackest thing I've ever seen. Oh, anyways, you can see she's getting a little bit defensive with the throat puffing right there, but not too bad. And I'm hoping to hatch some babies out from this girl this year. But yeah, just the solid black, the iridescence. And these guys get bigger than I think some people say. I have a male inside that's probably 7.5 feet long.
Okay.
Some people say that gemicincta are smaller animals. In my experience, that's not necessarily true. I think melanota are a much heavier bodied snake.
Sure.
And interestingly, gemicincta are sexually dimorphic in their body, like in their body type, I suppose.
Okay.
Once they become really big animals, the females have a wider head and a thicker body, and the males are like their head's a little smaller and they're a thinner animal.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
This is Goniosoma janseni, the Sulawesi or Celebes blacktail rat snake. This is a black phase. I used to mistakenly call them melanistic. That's not accurate because they're born green. And so she gave me a little kiss when I first opened the enclosure. They do this really cool throat puffing when they get defensive. I saw one of these, maybe even this individual. I'm not sure. I know I've ended up with animals before that came off the same endogram page. But I saw one and I was like, oh my God, I need those. And then they started coming in. So I got a hold of a few of them. And I have a 2.1 now, but I found somebody locally that's one. He needs a male, and he's going to trade me a female.
Oh wow!
For my male, so I'll have a 1.2, and he'll have a 1.1.
Nice.
And but yeah, this girl has grown a lot. She came from Ashley Dezan.
Very nice, very nice.
And I've got a male, and there's levels to the black. Also, the one that I'm trading off, he's not quite as black as she is. He came from Cameron. In that shipment, they were slightly less black and had more cream color in their throats. The only color that this girl has on her is that little bit of cream in the throat there. And, but yeah, she's, good sized animal.
Yeah.
6-foot snake or something that really, really well muscled and lean and they're just a really, really cool animal.
So I come all the way to Dallas and end up finding some scrub pythons anyway. So tell me about this girl.
So this is an import southern. She has the phenotype that we call Highland, but we know that exists in lower elevations as well. We're starting to lean more towards calling it like the jungle look versus drier area look. But we like to think we know what we're talking about when we talk about these things.
We got to put boots on the ground for that.
Yeah, we're real good at sounding like we know what we talk about. Yeah. But to me, this is the jam. Like these. Moluccans are probably still my favorite, but this makes an argument for most beautiful scrub python, a really nice orange Highland.
For sure.
And she has a really cool green ground color, and she's not even fully fired up right now. Her oranges can really blaze. And she is just spectacular. This girl, Jimmy Ma, had her for a while, and then one of my buddies picked her up and had her sent over here to pair with the male that I have. So she's just permanent resident here,
Nice.
permanent breeding loan.
All right, so this is a special one. This is a snake I really wanted to see over here. This is a female Barneck from my first clutch that I had ever produced back in 2020. Only let a handful of animals go from that clutch and to very select people, Patrick being one of them. This was a girl that I kind of always had thought of as a holdback forever, but multiple clutches later, I had to make some difficult decisions. But when Patrick expressed interest in her, I knew that I was comfortable with that decision to let her go because I knew where she was going. And for reasons like this, to be able to visit her on a vacation. So even when I'm away from my scrub pythons at home, I can still be around my scrub pythons. And that to me is very special. So she's awesome. And hopefully Patrick can get some eggs from her sometime in the next couple of years because she's right up there, and her sisters are all about at that same point. So I really love that snake.
So this is Boiga melanota. They've been given full species status. I feel like we're going to do that with Divergence and Gemicincta as well. And of the three that I have, definitely the most aberrant. You can see, I'll try to keep his attention on me while you get a little closer. You can see how crazy his patterning is. The paraventral striping, the dots and dashes, the dashes down the spine. And then he's normal at the beginning and normal through most of the end. But then, this crazy aberrancy in most of the upper half. He is a very defensive animal. He's an import. And he's it's not they're never really terrible to work with. They're just Boiga have an off and an on switch. There's no gray area. This guy is mostly on. You saw how quickly he got defensive when we pulled him out, and he is really, really just an incredible snake. I got this guy from Dan Malari. Shout out to Dan, DM Exotics. Always hooking me up with awesome stuff. I've got some really nice mangrove snakes and chondros from Dan. So this is Boiga dendrophila divergens. The Philippine mangrove snakes, Luzon mangrove snakes is a common name. He's the Polio Island locality. This guy was captive bred at the Tula Zoo in Russia and imported by Jordan Russell. This animal was the first Divergence I ever saw. I saw a picture of him and a female on Jordan's Instagram. I didn't know this existed. So the first time that I found out that this was a thing was a picture of this exact animal. And I ended up with him. Later, a friend of mine bought him from Jordan. I traded a chondro for him and ended up getting a female from Ashley later on that was also produced at Tula Zoo. All of my founder stock was produced at Tula Zoo. And I've raised up babies and bred those, but he's the sire of my first clutch, the female that you saw over there. And this animal is a monster. He's over 7 feet long. In my opinion, this is as beautiful and as impressive of a snake as you can show me, period. There's lots of stuff that, you can argue would be maybe as beautiful as this animal, but there is nothing that you can convince me is just hands down more impressive than this snake. He's one of the crown jewels of my collection. He has sired multiple clutches for me. Incredible offspring.
I got one of his daughters at home right now.
That's right. He's a very defensive animal. I have to be very, very cautious. These guys are venomous. They're rear-fanged. But, as with any rear-fanged snake, don't let them chew on you.
Yep.
Garter snakes and hognose snakes can mess you up if they chew on you, especially if you have a reaction.
All right, everybody. Thank you for checking out that video. If you liked it, please subscribe here on the YouTube channel. Like, comment, share, hit that notification bell as well so you never miss a new episode. I drop a new video every single Friday here on the channel. If you want to follow everything that Patrick has going on, his links are going to be down in the description below. For me, I'm on Instagram at Scrub Shepherd, Stephen Cush on Facebook, Cush Reptile on Morph Market as well. And I have a podcast every Wednesday night on the Trap Talk Reptile Network called Cush's Corner. So if you guys could check all that out, that would be wonderful. All the links are down in the description as well. And with all that said, thank you everyone for checking out the video, and I'll catch you all back here next week.